Hi, I'm Dinah Reyes, and I'm here with Ms. Wilkins, a new member of our district. Hi, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. So, what do you do for our district?
I currently am working with the district as a project manager for the School Climate and Transformation Grant.
And what does that mean?
So the School Climate Transformation Grant is a grant that is a federally funded program that has been basically gifted to the school, in a sense, to provide the district with an opportunity to change the climate and culture of each individual school within the district and within the district as a whole.
And would you know how our district came about this grant, how we learned about it by any chance?
So because it is a federally funded program, each school that is a part of it has to apply directly for the funds of it, and they have to provide the federal government with a proposal plan for what is currently going on in their school, what they want to change in their school, which basically includes a few objectives for our specific district. There are a few objectives, some of which include building a multi-tiered behavior system with interventions in each level of the tiers system to provide students with supports throughout their day while they're here at school, and creating a collaborative culture throughout the whole entire district as students move from one school to the next within our district.
And what is this grant covering? Like, what is that grant? What's the money being used towards? New staff or something like that?
So the money is used for several things. There are several components to the grant. As with any grant, there's several components. Grants, for the most part, especially federally funded grants, always provide money to provide someone such as myself to come on board and to actually implement the grant and implement the objectives of the grant per se. And then obviously I'm only one person, so there's 12 schools. So there will definitely need to be other individuals who need to work along with me. And then because the grant is fully encompassing of the PBIS, which is the Positive Behavior Intervention Support Systems that are going on within schools to help students and teachers and just schools in general to create a more positive school climate. There will definitely be a need to purchase different resources and supplies. There's also probably trainings and things that are associated with this grant specifically for myself to attend and to be a part of, just to enhance my knowledge in the grant and in the areas of interventions and things that could be implemented here in the school for the students and for the teachers and staff.
Right. You mentioned interventions. What does this mean? What does this look like for students and teachers and everything?
So interventions, and I guess, are just basically supports, ways for students. And I would say mainly students. Teachers normally are people who implement interventions. I mean, obviously, as human beings, we all can receive some sort of intervention, but I look at intervention as for students as a support system for them to get individual needs met based off just where they are. So interventions can be anything from bullying prevention to peer mediation, social media classes, if need be, just things to support students where they are with issues that they may be having, and not just supporting them, but providing them with tools and ways to equip themselves to be more aware and self-regulated in dealing with those things in the future.
And with these interventions, have you had any challenges that you know of now?
Not as of yet that I can speak of, simply because I've only been on board for a week. So being on board only for a full week, today is the first day of my second week. I haven't had the opportunity to actually go into any one school and implement an intervention, so there's no way I've been able to face a challenge. But in general, just based off my previous experience in implementing intervention, what I can say is that intervention is something that also becomes very personable. So with students, one of the challenges in general that I think would be faced anywhere you go with intervention is building relationship and having a good rapport, or being able to open yourself up to have an opportunity for a student to feel comfortable with having a conversation with you, because a part of intervention is obviously communication. And students sometimes, as we know, can shut down, or they feel standoffish in a sense because they don't know you, and intervention sometimes can become a very personal conversation in some situations. So in order for students to delve into their emotions and their definitely into different traumas that they've experienced in their life that I don't know about because I don't know them personally, it'll definitely be a need for some relationship building to occur in order for interventions to take place successfully.
What is your experience with these interventions? Have you had anything like this before?
I have had great experience in the past. So I was a dean of students in the past for behavior of students, and intervention became a huge part of my position. I learned pretty quickly that being the dean was not specifically geared towards suspension, lunch detention, just consequence in general. It wasn't a punitive position. It's often receives that connotation of being very punitive, but I learned very, very quickly That at this point where we are as human beings and at this stage where we are in education, there's children who, and there's students, I hate to say children because you guys are much older, but there's students
Right.
who are experiencing different issues, and those issues directly affect their behavior and their ability to function in school based off what we would consider a normal behavior. And there's things that they deal with outside of our school. These things often happen outside of our school and directly affect the way that the students are able to cope throughout their school day. And a lot of that stuff comes off and is perceived as poor, mismanaged behavior, that if the students have somebody there who is able to meet them on a social emotional level, a trauma level, a mindful level, an emotional level, they can change that behavior, and that behavior can turn around into something more positive.
So would you say this wouldn't be more of like an attack or like an intervention like that, but more of just having like a mentor? Something like that? Or?
I think, yeah, in a sense, you could say that for students, yes, because there's never an attack on students,
Right.
Especially from me. Never personally an attack from me. I never want a student to feel, or even a staff member, definitely, but I don't want students to feel attacked. But definitely an opportunity for students to just open up. And yes, in a sense, have a mentor. I've kind of developed that relationship
yeah.
with students in the past where I've been like a mentor more so than even the dean. And I say that with like a happy spirit because I never wanted the kids to just in a sense be fearful of me, but more so respectful of who I was, respectful of my position and what it is that I bring to the table, and know that I am there as a resource for them if they need me and if things are going on throughout their day that's getting them to a point where they're agitated, frustrated, they're just not able to cope, that there is someone there and that there is something, which is that intervention, which is there to help them so that they don't have to resort to behaviors that we know could potentially result in punitive actions such as out of school suspension or some sort of after school or lunch detention.
And with your past experiences, were there any successes, like any students who you saw like a flip and like change and stuff?
I have had some great successes. I'm happy to say I've had some great successes. I have seen students go from honestly having tantrums where they tear up whole entire classrooms to completely not doing these behaviors at all, and literally it's almost a 360. It's almost you have to see it honestly to believe it, I would say, because again in the beginning when I began working with students and implementing intervention, it was something that I personally was like, this is just not going to work. This is not going to work, because the behavior that the student was exhibiting was so extreme that it almost seemed impossible that through a basic simple conversation or a game that implements an opportunity for a kid to open up in just these different therapeutic situations that this kid would actually change his or her behavior. And I have seen it with my own eyes. It has worked very well. And students have opened up not just to myself, but to other staff members and had changes in relationships with their teachers and other staff members through the interventions because it's changed them as a person internally. It's changed them internally. So that's as a staff member didn't even have to be a part of the intervention process, but because the child gets changed internally, it changes how they deal with everybody else externally.
And you seem very passionate about all this, obviously. What made you come about like finding this job?
Well, let's see. So recently I graduated with my EDS, which is my education specialist certification, short of getting my PhD, just because I had to stop for a little bit of time. I have to stop for a little bit of time just for family reasons, to focus on a little bit more on my family, so school had to stop for a little bit. But anyway, in that process, I decided that I wanted to work with students on a larger level, and I wanted to also transform into a position that would give me an opportunity to honestly just provide services to not just students but also to staff members. So it seemed as though this would be a good position for me because it dealt a lot with not just the students but also working with the teachers and the staff members in each individual school and helping them to not change their school completely or not to take over their schools but to see what they already have in place, because there's so many good things that are going on right now in this district. Just in my first week being here, I can honestly say that every school that I've been at, there's been some really great and awesome things going on as far as PBIS is concerned, that maybe people didn't even realize they were doing that's PBIS, but it's just, or they did, but it's really awesome. And I think taking those, like, just wanted to get a position where I could just get into schools or different places and work with people who either already have PBIS going on, have a good understanding, they want PBIS in their school, they want to be able to change and transform their schools, they want a more positive climate, and they want somebody to honestly, in a sense, assist in what's already happening and enhance what's already going on and take it to the next level.
What is PBIS?
PBIS is Positive Behavior Intervention Supports.
Okay.
So honestly, looking directly away from what we all know traditionally as support in a sense, because when I was a kid growing up, support meant that you were getting an out of school suspension, an in school suspension.
Yeah.
We're going to support the behavior in a sense. So now we're not looking at not supporting it, because I'm not saying that we look at not suspending kids. I'm not saying that we don't suspend anybody, because we all know that there's some egregious behaviors that happen that actually warrant a punitive consequence,
Right.
unfortunately. And there's just certain things that happen, unfortunately, in our school systems today that don't allow us a lot of autonomy to say, that we can't suspend, or we can't say that you'll get a punitive consequence because the behavior is that extreme. But there's behaviors that occur, like I said before, that are a direct reflection or a result of something else that's happening. And a lot of times those things are happening outside of our school. And historically, kids have also been punished for those things. So we're looking now through PBIS to positively support those things.
Right.
Think about ways where we can positively support what's going on with this student at home, or this student when he or she walks home from school. We don't know this kid is getting bullied every single day on the school bus, so their ride to and from school is just horrendous. So when they come to school in the morning, they don't go into the breakfast room as every other student is asked to do, as quickly, because the kids who bully them are inside the breakfast room, and they've already been bullied on the school bus. So they're looking for an outlet. They're looking for an opportunity.
Right.
So rather than say that you're being disobedient because you're not going into the breakfast room, you're deliberately being disobedient, have someone there to support that student in a positive way, so that that information can come out and we can actually figure out a way to build an intervention in place to support that, what's happening with that student.
Yeah, you keep saying the words students and kids. So when it comes to I know for high school students, it has to be different from elementary school.
Oh, yes.
Or is it? Yeah.
Most definitely. So that's a good question. That's most definitely, because I know for high school, I have worked with high school kids in the past. I was the dean at a high school about 5 years ago. At a school called True Bright Science Academy Charter School. Unfortunately, it has closed down. It was a charter school, so I think we all know with the district that charter schools open and close. They come, they go. They're here 1 minute, they're going the next. But it was a high school, and I will tell you, the interventions and just the way the conversations that I had to have with those students are completely different than what I have had with students who obviously are in kindergarten. The approach is 100% different. These are people who are young adults. A lot of them are on their way into the world, such as yourself. They're graduating, they're going to college, they are literally young adults. And I think that the interventions at that level definitely should be looking more towards supporting them to being better human beings and adults in society and better prepared for society. Whereas in an elementary level, we're looking to provide the students with interventions that will support them with that day and that experience and what's happening right then and there, to provide them with the next level as far as what can I do to be a better student tomorrow. We're looking at the high school level, what can I do to get these children, not these children, but these students to be better people for tomorrow, because they're leaving and they're going into the real world.
And what would you say is your ultimate goal, what you are looking for in the end?
I would say in the end, I'm hoping to achieve having a system set up where each school within our district, students can seamlessly transfer between any school in our district. Whether it's through graduation and they're graduating from the elementary to the middle to the high school, or they're moving from one elementary to another elementary, one middle to another middle. There's one high. I know there's only one high school in a sense, but we have also the other campus where that makes us have two high schools. So even if you have to transfer between even both high schools, there's just a collaborative culture and norms that are set in place for the Norristown Area School District that students within our district understand and know. And they say that when they go into another building, I feel it here, there's a presence of it, and I know it's here. Meeting new faces and new people will always be a part of that transition. That's something that we can't really change, but we can change that when a student walks into a school, they walk into that school and they say, I know that within this school, I will be respected. I know that within the school, I need to be a courteous individual and I need to be a responsible individual. And those are just blanket things that I know need to happen within this school because I'm in this district. And then build some different norms and values within each school and classroom unto itself, because obviously each school, because I can also say that within this district, there is a district culture and norm, but each school has something different going on that makes it different unto itself as well. So there are some very specific characteristics from each school that I have been to, that I have seen, that make them very unique and very special and very different from each school that I've been to. And as I travel through the district and I go to different schools, I'm happy to say that though to me, based off my previous experience and the previous school cultures that I've been to, that the cultures here are pretty good for the most
Yeah.
part. It's not bad. It's really not bad. I've been in some schools where there's a very terrible culture, and it's just a culture where students just don't want to come to school. They don't like the school. They don't want to be there. Teachers don't want to teach there. And I think in general that teachers generally want to be here and want to be a part of the school, and an enhancement to their culture would definitely just be a plus for us.
Okay, well, that's all I have for you today. Would you like to add anything?
No, not this time.
No? Okay. Well, you guys heard it here from Miss Wilkins. If you ever see her, make sure you say hi to our new district member.